Would Dorian Yates dominate today's bodybuilding stage like he did in the 1990s? I highly doubt it, considering that Samson Dauda, he's what, 300 pounds? And Dorian's maybe 260 pounds, maybe, probably a little bit less here in 1993. And he was maybe the largest guy out there back then. So, no, I don't think he would dominate. Would he still be able to defeat these guys? A decisive victory in a picture comparison, that is. And of course, I am not a judge. I have to pad that for all of these videos. I'm just a fan. Well, we have some edited pictures here of Dorian Yates from the 93 Olympia. Some are photo shoots from backstage, but it was either the day before or the day after. And you can see here the front double biceps pose. Aside from this, they are mostly on stage. I think we have one other photo shoot picture, but yes, it's basically the same thing as if Dorian Yates was on stage. A lot of those on-stage pictures, not very flattering for Yates, and they don't show the whole legs, the feet, the calves, and you need that to size these guys correctly and to really get a glimpse of how he would look. And I'll tell you how he would look. He looks a little bit narrow, I have to say. Samson, he's bending at the knees, of course, so I made him a little bit shorter. Samson and Dorian are about the same height. They are about the same height. You size police will be all over me. Well, he's going very straight-legged, so it will render him a little bit taller than Samson Dauda in a lot of these shots. Now, like I was saying, width. Look at how wide Derek is for a shorter guy. And Hadi Choopan as well. Samson, I don't know. It's going to be an uphill battle for Dorian Yates in this pose, in the front double biceps. Considering that all of the other guys that I used in these Superset Man type videos, these were all inspired by Superset Man, by the way. But yes, all of the other guys, Ronnie Coleman, Phil Heath, Jay Cutler, they were dominating in the bicep, tricep area. But Dorian, that was kind of his weak point. Still winning on the forearms. Of course, little bit of a joke here, guys, so, take it for what it is. All of the Dorian fans are simply going to look at the calves and the forearms and suggest that he's winning. Of course he's winning in that aspect, but there is an entire physique to look at. Now go to the front lat spread. And yes, you Dorian fans, Dorianites, as maybe sometimes you like to be called, you can rejoice. This is the front lat spread. It is Dorian's pose, and I'm looking around. Samson Dauda, he's the only one close. And I made Samson, they're about the same height here because Samson, he goes fairly straight-legged in this one. About the same as Yates, bending a little bit more. But it is substance. Dorian doesn't have that separation of, say, your Hadi Choopan in the wheel department. Stuff of that such, but I mean, he is conditioned, trust me. Definitely in condition. So, Dorian Yates not winning in the front double, which is maybe an eye-opener, but he is absolutely winning in the front lat spread, which is refreshing to some of the old-timers. I guess the old-timers suggest that there's nobody today that could beat anybody from the 90s, even last place from the 90s. First place today couldn't beat him. That's some people suggest. Go to the side chest, this being the last photo shoot picture that we're going to use. The only on-stage ones, they just showed his upper half, and that's not very fun, just to see just one half of the physique. So yes, I did use a photo shoot. Yates, his arms not that impressive in this lineup, but you know what? And I'm not here to point the finger of sights slapped on clay, as I like to call it. But I bet you Dorian Yates is the best physique ever, with a guaranteed no sights, no slapped on clay. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not pointing to the finger at the greatest of all time, but did the greatest of all time use slapped on clay? I'm sure all of the other guys on stage are. Wouldn't you guys suggest that? Little bit? Well, Maybe not. Definitely don't want to offend Samson or Derek. We just leave Hadi out of that conversation. But yes, Dorian, not that impressive, but still, he's probably not getting last here, I don't think. Side tricep, and I know Dorian's not getting last place in this one. He makes Hadi and Derek look like, I don't know, amateurs? Well, not really. Hadi looks good in the midsection. Derek's opening up nice. Looks good in the quad, good separation. But Dorian's not all about the separation. Take a close look at those quads. Looks like fish scales all over him. Very thin skin. And calves. Oh my soul. Those are the biggest. He looked like some sort of prehistoric creature. Great big giant calves. Unbelievable. So yeah, he's handling Derek and Hadi pretty easily. But he's not very close to Samson. Could we convince him to scooch between Samson and Hadi? And it's pretty tight quarters in there. Look at how he fits right in there between Hadi and Samson. Kinda like Pangea, if you guys believe in that. You don't have to, you know. It's not the law. You don't have to believe in that. Could be continental drift, what have you. Drip? Anyway, he is stepping on Samson's toes a little bit. Samson winning on some aspects. He's obviously bigger. Look at his chest. And his arms bigger as well. But I'm looking at those calves. And in a similar pose, that could be the decider. Plus, this is Dorian's, it's his take-home pose. It's one of his best poses. Go to the back. An area where most would think that Dorian's most likely, anyway, to dominate this matchup from these back shots. But I don't know. You gotta think, the evolution of bodybuilding, the backs have gotten better. Obviously, there's cases like Dorian and Ronnie. They were just freaks of nature, but they were so far ahead of the norm back then that we kind of forget about the fact that backs are, in fact, getting better. They're getting wider. They're getting, more muscular. Look at Hadi Choopan's back. It's holding its own against Dorian. And they don't go all, crazy about Hadi's back like they did about Dorian's. Now, Dorian does look good. He looks wide. His traps look very thick. Maybe the thickest. Samson's look good too, but I don't think they're bigger and thicker than Dorian Yates. But the thing is, he's no wider than the two little guys. He should be way wider. And Samson Dauda, he's probably wider than Yates too. Christmas tree area, take a close look. That is the last refuge, the last saving grace for a Dorianite. To suggest that his condition is so much better than these guys that he would absolutely get the win. And he was off season. He was 300 pounds, and that was 3 weeks out pictures. He was 300 pounds. He could have went on stage then. Yes, I heard all of the stories. Good back shot, though. What about the rear double? A better shot for Yates? I think so. Using this picture footage, you can actually see the hard density of Yates. And it was difficult to see in that rear lat spread. People say, they all say, although the die-hard Dorian fans anyway. In real life, he was so much harder, denser, grainier. I see it here. Look at the Christmas tree area. If you took and I know this sounds ridiculous, but like a pointer stick. Get like a little pointer stick. And I'm not joking, they did that in 1901. I think that was the great competition. The very first ever bodybuilding competition. They went around with a little piece of paper and a pencil, writing stuff down, and they had one guy poking them with a little stick to see who was the harder and denser bodybuilder. I think Dorian would win back then, 1901, and the calves so lowly inserted, like a dream come true. To have calves like that, probably didn't even train them. I mean, he probably did a little bit of work on them, but nothing more than a guy with little calves that tries his hardest. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. When you look at Derek, when you look at Samson, I mean, maybe not Hadi, but the width of those guys. Very impressive against Yates. Traps, again, in the rear lat, you could see it. You can see it here even more, the traps of Yates. Very hard, grainy, and dense. Little unsymmetrical. Have to add that in there. I mean, you can see it. It's obvious, is Dorian. So it is of a debate. Here's the abs and thigh. Another great pose for Dorian. Obviously, he doesn't have those striated quads like your Hadi Choopan, but we know that going in, he is still very hard, dense, and conditioned in the quads. Just doesn't have those genetic goodies. But what he does have is a calf that he is just hanging in front of everybody, showing the judges, saying, look at these, and look at everyone else's. See, guys nowadays, even the ones with the big calves, they don't flaunt them. You have to. You have to stick them out and show the judges and point to the other guy's calves. That's what you have to do. That's what Dorian did. His midsection, this could be a debate, but I think this is the second best midsection here, easily. Very hard, dense, and grainy, and he's not leaning forward like Derek to create more of a V-taper. Not that Derek needs to do that. I mean, looks great anyway. But Dorian, look at just the lats alone. Very impressive. So yes, a little bit of a debate here too, considering the quads and the better abs for Hadi. But Dorian could actually win this one. I'd go with Hadi just because, he's just that much more peeled and ripped in the midsection. Good ripped quads as well. But Dorian, in my opinion, getting an easy second here. Now, go to the final shot, the most muscular, and this is where the Dorian fans, or Dorianites, they drop off, they leave. They do not count this. The most muscular was not a pose in Dorian's day, so they're not counting it. Well, this is to see how good Dorian would do on today's Olympia stage. And absolutely, they would have to count the most muscular. I think it is lucky that we have Derek Lunsford in this lineup, a very meek most muscular from Derek. So yeah, I think Dorian would beat him. Little harder, denser, grainier. Derek, bigger arms, I think, on a much smaller man. And when it comes to the hands clasped, I mean, Dorian's not beating Samson or Hadi in that pose. And that's why I selected the crab position, because at least he's beating Derek. So he's squeezing in a third place here for the most muscular. And that could help him as I tally the score. And interestingly enough, I have Dorian Yates in a tie in terms of points. If you're putting one guy first in a pose, he gets 1 point, and what have you. So he is tied, not for first though, for second place. Him and Hadi Choopan. I would probably give the victory to Dorian over Hadi Choopan, just because, height makes a difference. Huge calves make a difference. Hadi more peeled from the front. I guarantee you Dorian more peeled from the back. But either way, I believe Samson Dauda would win this one. Now, of course, there is people at the Church of Dorian Yates, the Dorianites. They're just preaching how much harder and denser he is. That is a possibility. If it is that much, then yes, it is possible that Dorian Yates could win the Mr. Olympia title in 2024. But of course, many things would have to happen. You would have to get a hold of a DeLorean with a flux capacitor, and they are very tricky to get a hold of. But all jokes aside, I mean, realistically, time travel, that could affect your physique. So we might not get this exact on-stage version. Anyway, just my opinion. I got him second place. He could get first. The stories are true. Let me know. Were you there? Are the stories true? And Dorian, was he that much more conditioned than Samson, Hadi, Derek. Have a great one, folks.